I call our regular meeting of Los Altos School District Board of Trustees to order. A recording and or broadcast of this meeting is being made at the direction of the board, which may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Start by calling the roll. Steve.
Here.
Vladimir.
Here.
Shelley.
Here.
Jessica.
Here.
I am also here. All board members are present. We'll move along to the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to invite the Egan students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Go for it like this.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, D3, agenda approval. Would any board members like to provide comment on the agenda? Seeing none, would any board member like to propose a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the agenda made by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to D4, closed session report. No action was taken in closed session, but the board will be adjourning back into closed session at the end of our open session agenda. D5, superintendent update.
All right, I have a full list today, so I want to start with a very special announcement and a welcome to our new LASD principal. She's in the back there, Miss Sarah March. Principal at Springer Elementary. We had an amazing group of candidates, and Sarah really rose to the top through every single part of the process. She comes to us with great experience in the Oak Grove School District as principal, and we are so happy to have her join our team. We have communications going out. You all had a chance to meet her in closed session this evening. We have communications going out to the Springer staff and community tomorrow morning with a little bit more detail. And then I think the plan is she's meeting kids on Wednesday morning at their assembly. She's already connected with Mrs. Khaled, and things are rolling along. We have a date for a PTA parent coffee. So we have a great transition plan to ensure that we have a smooth start to the school year. So welcome, Sarah. We're so excited that you're joining us. Speaking of good news and celebrations tonight, last time we were here, you all approved the resolution for the Valley Health grant, and we were kind of awaiting whether or not we were going to get granted. We did. We got notification last week, so we will be receiving $278,995 over the course of 2 years to set up a wellness center at Egan Junior High School. Mental health of our students, the community needs over there, and it really gets our foot in the door, perhaps to future grant opportunities to expand beyond Egan. So that's really terrific news. Thank you to Catherine Azevedo and the team who really organized that grant proposal and visit. Wanted to thank you all for attending our Junior Olympics, which was just last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago. Thank you to the Gardner-Bullis parent team. They were kind of the school in charge this year for Junior Olympics. Want to thank our amazing PE staff who really get the kids ready, organize the events. I want to thank Dina and Connie who are there also running all of those track events. The kids do such an exceptional job in their events, and most importantly, in their sportsmanship. It's a big piece of Junior Olympics. Of course, we had hundreds of parent volunteers from across all of our schools. So it's a really terrific day. I ended with a severe sunburn. Yeah, I was there much longer than I had anticipated because it was just so exciting, but it's really such a wonderful day. And I'm really proud of our district for having this great opportunity for the community and most importantly for our kids. I did want to let you know that I've officially, it's not a graduation, but completed my AXA new superintendent seminar series. I wanted to thank you for letting me attend that this year. We had 5 sessions over the course of the year. It was great for me to meet other new principals, to have an opportunity to troubleshoot. They brought in real specialists from our principals, not principals. It's been a long one. Yes, I did. But brought in so many interesting people and with different perspectives. So it was a really valuable experience for me, and one that I know that I have a kind of a team of people to call should I need to get a different opinion on something. Jessica and I had a really interesting opportunity to attend the Power of Democracy event at the county office last week. Or the week before. It was a really wonderful kind of focus on both civic engagement and environmental literacy and what kids are doing around our county, and how might we have more of, this is what I was thinking, how might we have more of a focus on those two pieces for our kids? How can we ensure that kids are really having an impact within their school community, their broader community? It was really a wonderful event. So next year, I think it's something that they plan to have in future years. I would encourage each of you to attend. It was really terrific. We just returned from Anaheim to celebrate, or California, you notice my pen, our California Distinguished Schools, both Block and Egan were awarded and recognized this Friday. We had a great opportunity to kind of bond as a team, to meet Tony Thurman and shake some hands, but I have to tell you that the star of the show was absolutely Mickey Mouse. If you've seen our social media posts, you see pictures of both Block and Egan and then all of us together. But it was so great to really recognize the good work that our teachers do, the great results that our students see from their experiences at our junior high schools. So it was really terrific. Congratulations to everyone. And 2 more, I'm almost done. This Wednesday evening, we are going to the Hoffman Awards dinner. We have a big team because we are receiving a Hoffman Award for our computer science program. We are excited. They've come out to kind of validate our program. They walked through several of our classrooms from TK and kindergarten to our junior high computer science classroom. So we'll be recognized this Wednesday, which will be really terrific. We're proud of our computer science program, and I know that it's very innovative to be reaching all kids at all grade levels within our district. So it's really awesome. And lastly, we are celebrating Employee Appreciation this week. Last week, we recognized our teachers and employees of the year. Thank you to those of you who were able to attend. We recognized Joe Chan, one of our music teachers, elementary music teachers, and Sadhna Chaudhry, one of our EL specialists, as our district employees of the year. But we're really celebrating all of our employees this week, and next week we have our the famous ice cream truck going school to school. Today it was here at Covington, and it's just a great way to give a little treat to our wonderful employees to recognize all the good work they do for our students. And that is it.
All right, thank you.
What's happening?
We'll move on to E1 Egan School presentation.
Oh my God, this is exciting. I am here. Come on up, Mr. Canty and Mr. Tino. Good evening, board and Mr. Wolakevich. Was on the whole, and you may Sandra Bush, I wrote this forever. We're thrilled to be here. Thank you, Sandra, for pointing out our big to-do last weekend in Disneyland and Anaheim, and kudos to all of our students for both Block and Egan receiving the California's Distinguished School Award, and it was really great to be there with colleagues to celebrate that and to receive those awards. Tonight, we have a long list of things, honestly, that we could have highlighted tonight. We've chosen 2. And tonight, we'd really like to celebrate 2 things that have happened, one recently and one all year long. Most recently, with thank you to Dr. Carrie Bosco, we were able to host 18 students from Taiwan for the Taiwan Education Delegation, and Ms. Akani has some students that she will have speak to you about that. And then We also have this year started an Avid program at Egan for the first time. I do want to highlight, last year, three of our students from Egan were able to enter the high school Avid program. This year we have 11. So, that is super awesome. And, I've invited, Ms. Patino, who is our Avid teacher, and we want to let the kids speak to you about their experiences, this year with those two opportunities. So we're gonna start with, the Taiwan education delegation, and then we'll move to Avid. Question, yeah.
Abbott stands for?
Advancement via individual determination.
It's a high school program that happens at both Los Altos High School and Mountain View High School. We have not had a junior high school program until this year, and we're super excited about the work that Jen has done and I don't even know the advancement the kids have made this year. All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Dina and then to Jen.
So for Mindy, I am gonna introduce the students that we brought in to speak about our Taiwan visit. I have Connor Ryan and Jaden Cern, Alexis Lee, and Mary Lou and Ethan Lee. I am gonna turn it over to them. They have spoken to our PTA before. We did have 18 students. I had more than this host and really be their shadow. They were great shadows. I'm gonna let them share their experience and then I'll add in a few other things if you guys have missed anything. So if you guys want to stand up. Stand up. These guys are mostly just to start off, the students that were selected to be these shadows are part of our Mandarin class. I think that's why one of the big reasons why Egan was selected, with the exception of my buddy Connor down there, because he is well beyond our Mandarin class and was invaluable in the visit in that he was a great translator when we needed it. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
So my name is Connor and my buddy was Ryan, a 7th grader from Taiwan. And I thought that those 2 days that we spent were very valuable because I got to learn a lot about the differences between education in Taiwan and then education in the US. Because the Taiwanese people, I thought, were much more respectful in many ways, but one of the most takeaways were that they got free food from Mr. Candy, but they had sparkling water that none of them really liked. So my buddy, he didn't want to drink his. So instead of just putting it in the trash, like I'm sure most of us would have done, he walked over to the bathrooms, poured the drink out into the drain, rinsed the can, and then put it in the recycling bin. And this really was a really big insight because I would never have gone that extra mile to recycle, but he did, and that really shows a lot about their lifestyle.
Yeah, I got paired up with, I think, the only 8th grader Taiwanese kid. His name was Jim. And he was really tall. But you know, they were supposed to be able to speak a ton of English. Didn't know a single word. We found a way, we were allowed to use our phones. So pulled up Google Translate as soon as I figured out he couldn't speak any English. And we worked our way around each class, and it was really fun. We found ways to communicate with each other, even though language barrier. And I eventually got his contact at the end of the first day. And that was great because we talked for like an hour after school, just back and forth. Him translating Taiwanese to English and then translating back into Taiwanese, and then I have to go through the translate. And that was a whole process, but we did it. School.
I had an 8th grade buddy. Her name was Karina, and one thing I took away was, their school buildings are very different than ours. As you guys know, Egan is very we only have 1 2-story building, and the rest are like flat on the ground and spread out. But then, her school, she had 3 buildings, and some of them were 5 stories tall. And in the classroom, the teachers move around, and so the students actually stay where they are. So then they become like better friends with their classmates because they're with them the whole day. So I thought that was really interesting since it's very different from us.
I had an 8th grade girl, her name was Aurora, and it was just the 2 days, it was just really fun. I think she was very quiet, and same with Jaden, she was kind of like, she didn't know as much English as I thought she would have, but, I learned a lot, like the differences from our school and their school, like what Alexis said, the multiple stories and how long their day is. And sometimes they can even like stay the night there, which was really a shock to me. But I think they also had like a lot of homework, and it was just really fun and interesting to learn about all the cool things.
I had a 7th grade boy buddy named Lou, and it was a really valuable experience for me just to get to know him, because like going into it, I thought that they were going to be like very, very rigid and strict. And they were, but like my buddy was like very open, very funny, and I think that we connected a lot better than I originally thought. I mean, I wasn't expecting to cry when he left, but I may have shed a few tears. And then, yeah, it was really sad for me because, in the first day, there was like kind of a language barrier, but I felt like on the second day, we really got to open up. And what I did was I had a friend who was also in the Mandarin exchange program, and she had a buddy. So we kind of just joined together and did all the same classes. So it was almost like having two buddies. Her name was Penny, and she was really, really nice. And I just learned that, even across different countries, we all have like a lot in common. And I think that it was just a really valuable experience emotionally, and it's also very good for like our language development, because I had to push myself to speak more Mandarin. And sometimes when I still text him, I have to like do what Connor did. Sometimes I just translate, and I remember like, what was that word that I Google Translate, so like to expand my vocabulary.
Wow. We did talk about afterwards that we really focus on differences, and what we found out is we actually have more similarities. So that was a nice takeaway. I think one of the biggest surprises for me was their instructors. When they had 5 adults that went on, 2 principals and 3 instructors. Their biggest focus was electives. They don't have electives. So they were massively interested in the electives. One was very much into photography. Connie and I were in broadcast journalism, and they watched us record. They thought we were ready for Hollywood. That was great. They wanted to see art. They were in music. One was quite the musician. They wanted to go into Miss Spector's program. So it was great. They were there for the 2 days. I think it was nice to have 2 days. I think by the second day, the relationships really were more comfortable. As you can see, if you want to back up that other slide, sorry, I forgot to mention, we did have a special schedule for them. So they did shadow, but we also had some other things planned for them. Introductions and such at the beginning. Second period, we also had some special things happening in leadership. They ran some games, and good thing Connor was there to help us translate what that was supposed to look like. And then we did some interviews during that time. And I know we had the Chinese yo-yo, we had a special instructor come do that, and they enjoyed that. Some had that experience, some not so much. I think nap time was a surprise to many of us, right? That was one that I think they talked about. Do you guys remember what time their day started?
7:45 from my life.
7:30.
About 7:30. So of the 18, only 4 of them were boys. They didn't have as many boys. So we buddied them up with same gender to try to help that comfort level. But then they shared them, so they were able to sort of pass them off. There were some math tests going on that before them to sit there. Jamie, you want to share what happened with your buddy in your class?
Yeah, sure. So I sat down with my buddy and I grabbed like the warm up that we always get at the beginning of class. And I'm just like, okay, I'll just give him the warm up. I'll look at my test corrections. And so I give him a pencil and the warm up sheet. I look down at like my test corrections, I'm like, okay, this and this and this. Turnover, he's already like halfway done with it. We learned this yesterday. Yeah, so they're way more advanced than us.
There's some pictures of just some different groups. That shot on the upper right, that was just lunchtime. I happened to walk by and that's how many of them, everybody that didn't have a buddy wanted to meet the buddies. So there was a lot of socializing during brunch and lunch and between classes, when they saw them. There's just so many other activities and our goodbyes. Do you guys have any questions for them?
Did they have any specific, besides the math, did they have any specific things that they learned that they came away with academically that you think is worth mentioning?
So one of the schools is actually close to the, I think it's like an Olympic shooting center in Taiwan. So it's like a required class for them to like learn how to shoot. So that was pretty cool.
So you're saying they did have an elective? Or actually, maybe not elective.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I mean, at that time would be an elective.
Yeah, right.
Anything else you guys may have missed? We're good. We were invited by Taiwan. And it's still floating out in outer space out there, but they welcome us to visit, hoping to see us in April of next year. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Well, thank you for being such great
Yeah.
ambassadors for our district,
Good
for our
job.
school.
Good job.
Ms. Virginia. I teach Avid at Egan, and I just want to kind of familiarize you folks with kind of what Avid is about, and then I'll turn it over to some of my amazing students. So Avid's mission statement, and just in case you didn't know, Avid does stand for Advancement via Individual Determination. And I really think, especially the students that I've chosen to come represent us today, really have chosen to advance themselves through their own individual determination. They've worked really hard. But the mission statement for the Avid program is to close the opportunity gap by preparing all students for college and career readiness and success in a global society. The two types of strategies that I think are really important that we incorporate in Avid class are focused note taking. And I think it's awesome because they can apply that skill to any subject, because it's not just taking notes however you want. You write down your notes, you take a break, you come back, you process those notes, you highlight, you make little comments on it. And it's really, really a good skill for them to be able to use and apply it in any subject. Another thing that we like to incorporate is the Wicker framework, and that stands for writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and rigor. So we love to incorporate all of these different things, and we do a little bit at a time, but it really allows them to be a more well-rounded academic, individual. The two things that my students are going to be talking about today are the Avid tutorial, which is different from the Egan tutorial that we have throughout the week. It's done within our classroom. And their process in applying for Avid at the high school, which isn't just you automatically get in, it's a full-on application process, an interview, you fill out a form, it's kind of thorough. So they're going to be talking about their experience there. I brought with me some of the class of 2024 from Egan in Avid. I have Keisha Kayanan, Chelsea Vera, David Santiago Ramos, and Brian Hernandez, and they're going to be sharing a little bit about the two topics that I mentioned.
Report, you guys. Good job, you guys. Everybody goes to the room. Report. Let's start.
So hi, you asked me to know me as David. I'm part of the 2024 class. Today we're going to explain the Avid tutorial process, in which we have a TRF sheet, which stands for tutorial request form, where we write down our questions, problems that we need help with. We go to the tutorial to get a clear explanation from peers and teachers, so to help us get a better understanding.
And we received the TRFs on a Monday. and work on it as homework. We then, like, first thing in the morning on Thursday, we turn it in into Ms. Patino. And she like separates us into our subject groups. And according to like our subject, and in these groups, we will have one tutor for like every subject to help us find the answer of like our point of confusion.
The Avid tutorial process has helped me with math, in which we had a subject called the linear equations, in which I had like many questions at the beginning. And then I wrote down these questions to take to the Avid tutorial process. And I asked my peers, tutors, and teachers if they could help me, and I got a really good understanding of it, and I got my first score on math because of it.
Nice.
Another way, like, one way tutorial has helped me is doing pretty well on my causes of the Civil War test. Because, I really had like, I was struggling like clarifying like what the ideas of the compromises were. But like after the tutorial, it really helped me learn the idea of the compromise of like 1850, Missouri Compromise and other ones. So I feel like it's in pretty good like form. And here you can see Avid tutorial request form, which there's first on the front page, there's an initial question where you also write your source, as in like the page you're working on, the key academic vocabulary that is associated with the question. Like two steps, well, two things that you know about your question. And on the back, there's a written like way of your steps. And it shows the point of confusion on where you need help on. And at the very bottom, there's a tutorial question, which you write out what like your point of confusion is.
So my name is Chelsea and we're gonna be talking about Avid interviews for Los Altos High School. So the first step with the Avid interviews was preparation. So the first thing we did was think about possible questions that we could be asked during the interviews. And to help with this, Ms. Patino gave us a sheet with a bunch of questions and we kind of got to plan out what we wanted to say and just like come up with answers to the questions. We also had to think about attire. Instead of wearing sweatpants and hoodies, we had to dress more semi-casual. And then we also had to think about personal accomplishments that we wanted to share with our interviewers. Like, for example, I wanted to share that I'm in Algebra 1 as an 8th grader.
And mine was, I did the Ruby Bridges walk to school. And for the interviews, we had a group session with 2 seniors from the high school and a couple of us. And they would ask us questions like why we wanted to be in the high school Avid and like what we do outside of school. And for the one-on-ones, there was one teacher from like the high school and basically they would ask you like why you wanted to go to college and like they would look over your grades with you. And for the applications, you had to fill out this like form and it had similar questions to the interviews. And for the reflection, I think Avid has helped me prepare for the interviews and prepare for high school. And I think it really did help because I got into that high school at Avid.
Even Avid really helped me because like coming into the class, I didn't really know what we were gonna do. But then after having the high school interviews, I kind of realized how much Avid has helped me, especially with note taking and everything we did. It all helped me prepare for the interview. And I think without the class, I don't think I would have been like really prepared for what they asked us. And I think even Avid overall has helped me for not just Avid in high school, but just high school in general.
So I want to talk about our success before I get a little teary-eyed from my comment. So for considered the class of 2028. When they go into high school. So we do have 11 out of the 16 students that applied, 11 got into Avid at the high school. Many of them are gonna be doing science, bio honors, Spanish honors, a couple of, I think, geometry honors, I believe. And a lot of, anytime I spoke to my students about what they want to do when they grow up and what they want to, what their hopes and dreams are, many of them will be first generation college students in their family. And I'm just so proud to be a part of their process. And, from beginnings of, it's never too early to start thinking about college. And I look forward to hearing about their success in the years to come. Thank you.
I'm gonna be right, Gary. I would like to thank Sandra and Gary. Many of you have worked with me since I started in Egan 14,000 years ago. This has been a dream of mine to have an Avid class, and it's never too late. And I am extraordinarily proud of all of the 11 students that got into the high school Avid program, and all of the kids that have been in the class. And I'm extraordinarily grateful to Carrie and to Sandra for making this a possibility for us at Egan. And that is our presentation.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Moving on.
You can come be tutors Thursday mornings, first period if you want. Be great.
All right, consent calendar, item F, consent calendar. Would any board members like to provide comments on the consent calendar? I would just like to provide one comment on item F3E. Since we had the MOU, an update to the MOU with Palo Alto on our agenda last time. The feedback we got from Palo Alto was that they would rather do the standard MOU for the next academic year, and then during the next academic year, we can have a conversation with them about modifying it going forward. So that's why this item is on our consent agenda, despite a different version of it being on our agenda before. Without any other comment or lacking any other comments, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion to approve the consent calendar made by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Item G1, play request to address the board. Do we have anybody from LAPA or CSEA?
No.
Not seeing any hands, so we'll move on. To provide public comment on an agenda item, speaker cards are to be submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment on an item begins. Your name will be announced when it is your turn to speak. Item H, community comments. This time is reserved for members of the public and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agenda items except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. Do we have any general requests to speak? Seeing none, we will move on to I1. Mental health update. Dr. Bosco or Claire, as the case may be.
We good? Okay. We welcome Claire Crane.
Thank
to give us
you.
a elementary school mental health update.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I have a new last name now, so a little different. Also expecting, so lots of changes in my life. But I am here to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is mental health, specifically for our elementary school students. So as a little refresher, all of our students have access to mental health or social emotional services in our district. All of our students participate in our Character Strong curriculum in the classroom. For a smaller amount of students, they might need a little something extra. And so they are typically seen by our mental health clinicians at our elementary sites, which is currently being provided by CHAC. And then an even smaller number of students might need a little something more. And so those students are typically seen by our school psychologists who are at every one of our sites, or maybe even an outside provider. So just as a refresher and a reminder, our elementary sites are supported by our school psychologists and then CHAC right now. So they're usually interns who are at all 7 of our elementary sites. Our junior high also has mental health support. They are supported by mental health therapists who are partially funded by a grant that we have and then partially funded by LASD. So I want to kind of back up a little bit and talk about where we've been with CHAC. So the 2022-2023 school year, which was right after kind of coming out of the pandemic, we really wanted to increase our mental health and social emotional support. Thanks to you guys, we were able to increase our mental health services. We had 4 associate marriage and family therapists and then 4 trainees, marriage and family therapists, along with 2 doctoral practicum students. So we had 10 people providing 29 days of support across our 7 elementary sites. We serviced about 163 individual students during that year, and there were more students who were seen in group. I don't have that total number, but you can see the cost there was $424,000. Thinking about the support for this year, we kind of wanted to get back to our pre-pandemic numbers. And we were also seeing that the level of support was thankfully going down. So we cut back a little bit. And so we have currently at our sites, we have 7 people who are providing 19 days of support. We've been able, so far to this point, we've been able to service 108 individual students across our sites, plus 63 group students in group, for a total of 171 students. So we've been able to kind of see the same amount of students, which is great. And our cost was around $277,000. So CHAC was recently acquired by Pacific Clinic Services. So CHAC is our, local community agency. Pacific Clinic Services is a larger agency. And so working with them, they gave us a couple proposals for next school year. The first proposal that they gave us was a cut to what we currently have, which would be 5 people providing 15 days of support. You can see the cost there. And then we asked them to give us some additional proposals. We scaled back even more with 3 people across all 7 of our sites. And the cost was, you can see that there, $322,000, which is an increase to what we're paying now for a less amount of service. So I did some research. I reached out to various organizations in the community and came across one in particular, Adolescent Counseling Services, or ACS. They have been around for 49 years. They serve San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. They're a very similar model and organization to CHAC. So they have school-based counseling services. They also have an adolescent substance addiction treatment program that they run. And they have an outlet program, which is specific for LGBTQ+ youth and their families. And then their on-site counseling services, their office is in Redwood City. And then they're very similar to CHAC in that they have interns who support the schools, and then they have licensed mental health clinicians who oversee the interns. So working with them, they give us a proposal for this year. And their proposal would be 7 people providing 18 days of support. It very closely matches what we have currently this year at our sites. And how that would kind of look would be Santa Rita and Almond would get 4 days of support. The rest of the elementary sites would get 2 days of support, which is what they currently have and what they're used to. Something that is really exciting is that they will be able to provide bilingual, specifically Spanish-speaking clinicians at both Almond and Santa Rita, which we have not had before. And then they're also really flexible if things bubble up at Gardner Bullis or Loyola and things are kind of on a downward trend at either Almond or Santa Rita, the clinicians can help out and support so that we're making sure that we're servicing all of our students. And then their cost is $275, so more closely matches what we are doing now. And then I just kind of want to switch gears a little bit and kind of give you guys a preview of what's to come in 2025. So the Department of Healthcare Services is launching a capacity grant. And basically what this grant is going to do is it's going to allow schools in the state of California to obtain reimbursement for any sort of services that are offered in schools. So we can obtain reimbursement from Medi-Cal, commercial health plans, individual health plans, disability insurances, for those eligible services. Now, we're still trying to determine what exactly those services would be and what they look like. But as of right now, if there are any MFT, social workers, school counselors, school psychologists, or even school nurses who are providing services, we would be able to submit for reimbursement for those. All schools will be eligible, so we will be eligible in January of 2025 to start that process. I can share that it is new, and we have a neighboring district who is part of the first cohort who's participating in this. And they are thankfully our guinea pigs, so they're working out some of the kinks right now. So there's still some things to be kind of determined, but it's an exciting opportunity for us to be able to kind of submit for some reimbursement, which will help offset some of our costs. So some questions that I'm pondering and thinking out with the team is just infrastructure. So what does the space look like? The staffing look like? What do the resources look like for getting this off the ground? We have to be mindful of data collection and documentation. So we right now are adhering to FERPA, but we're crossing over into the land of HIPAA as well. So when we are collecting student information and healthcare information, we need to make sure that our systems are compliant with both of those platforms. And then what does the billing infrastructure look like? So just the details of how do we submit for claims? How do we get reimbursement? Who does all that? And that we're partnering with the County Office of Education, and they're very much aware of all school districts doing this and kind of the challenges or roadblocks that we might see. But they've been really great partners to troubleshoot some of the ideas. So just wanted to give you guys a little preview of what's to come in 2025. And that's my quick update.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Board members?
Could you walk us through, if you go back there, 2 days at some schools,
Sure.
say 2 days at Covington, how do you get to 2 days? Is that 48 hours or is that?
Yeah, so we have gone based on the level of needs. We've collected a lot of data. We've tracked the number of students who are being referred, how long they're staying in counseling, and then when they're exited and how we can get other students in. So 2 days of support would be, they're there full time, they're there all day. So from 8:30 to 3. And they're seeing, depending on their credentials, they're seeing 6 to 7 students a day. And they can see more with groups. And then they're also doing parent consultation. They're working with teachers as well. Phone calls, all their notes and all things like that.
Wow, I'm amazed that we can offer support for just in 2 days.
Yeah.
Are any students sort of not supported the way they should be supported, given this level of services, or your expectation?
Yeah,
This is for next year.
that's a good question. So up until recently, we hadn't had wait lists at our sites. We do currently have wait lists at several of our sites, meaning students who are waiting to be seen. It's a really challenging time right now at the end of the year because they're trying to wrap up services and then refer out for any like larger issues. But what we've done with specifically with school-based mental health counseling, what we've tried to do is really focus the need on issues that pertain to school. And if the either the school psychologists or the therapists are noticing that there are larger needs that span beyond the scope of school, then they work with those families to try to connect them with their insurance providers or any outside agencies to make sure that they can get support outside of school.
Yeah, thanks. That helps a lot.
So Vladimir, I think you were asking about maybe the more higher need kids who are on the waiting list. But on the other end of that spectrum, the other kids who are not getting seen are the ones, which I don't want to say less needs or lower. So can you explain how this fits into the umbrella with like the wellness center that we're going to set up, like the whole mental health umbrella, like all the different.
In 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. I mean, this is how I see it is our mental health therapists are a huge asset to the school psychologist because the school psychologist just can't get to every single student. And so when we think about the tiered approach, we think about like CHAC or ACS as a starting point for these students. So they get in, they might have 6 to 8, could go up to 12 sessions to try to kind of help with whatever the immediate need is. If the need rises higher, then they communicate with the school psychologist. The school psychologist might take over. Or if it's really acute, there might be outside agencies who we work with and we refer to. So we're constantly like triaging the level of support and working with families to see kind of insurance providers, how can we get them connected? And then it's a similar model at the junior high too. Where they're looking at the referral concern and then the level of need with the student. I think the hope for the wellness center is that it would be a physical space where all students can come. Some students might need a one-time check-in. They might just need to take a break from whatever class they're in and just come and chill for a little bit, grab a snack, and then they're able to go back to class. We also do like one-time crisis counseling support too. So if there's an immediate need and a student needs to be seen right away, we do that. And then if there's long term, then we kind of figure out what the longer term solution is for them. Yeah.
Just a quick comment, other schools in the district have wellness centers and they are very heavily used.
Yeah. In surrounding districts?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So they've been a big success there. But what on a separate question, are there any students who don't get the help they need? Ultimately?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm sure there are. We try really hard if students are referring, or we actually at the junior high especially, we get a lot of friends referring their friends who are saying that I'm concerned about my friend. We do our very best to try to check in with every kid that we can. But there might be kiddos out there who don't share with their teachers or their families who aren't getting, or their.
Oh, yeah, no, I meant the ones who are
Oh,
part of your system that you either refer to, and then you're gonna follow up or.
yeah, there's a couple kids who are on a wait list right now who have not been seen yet. But if their needs are so acute that they need to be seen, then our school psychologist will usually step in and support. Yeah. Right now, it's really crunch time of thinking ahead to summer and how we can connect families to support when there's not that school support. So that's what a lot of our school psychologists and our clinicians are working on.
Thank you.
Can I just stop one point of clarity? The transition from CHAC to Pacific Clinics is still a negotiation. That's not
Okay.
closed to.
Just the takeover, you mean, not the.
It's not a takeover, it's that what it is still in negotiation.
Sure.
Just to be very clear.
I was just trying to clarify your clarification that our plan is equal with ACS,
Yeah.
but CHAC's plan is still in negotiations.
It's still part of the negotiations, yes.
Is there anything else? I was gonna ask you if there's anything else you want to say about CHAC as our representative on their board.
Yeah, the reason we're in this transition with them is that the approach to providing services was not economically sustainable and given the way they budgeted and put together the model. So they looked at various options, how they could keep going, what else they could do. Pacific Clinics as a merger became the most reasonable, given their history in Santa Clara County and the state. So they're hoping to be able to move forward with that, but like I said, there's still a lot of things in discussion. It's not a done deal. Meanwhile, CHAC, because of the financial issues they had, have closed down a lot of services they were providing the community because they couldn't keep the family services going. They couldn't keep a lot of the other non-school based functions that they were doing afloat. And primarily because they couldn't figure out how to deal with the Medi-Cal issue and the insurance issue, which when they were founded 50 years ago wasn't available in the community. It is now, but they didn't transition and take advantage of that. So that's where we've kind of hit a wall. And they're not the only agency in that position in the area locally or in the state, where those changes that happen rapidly to the industry they're in. And so they're trying to figure out that plus an additional requirement that interns have to be paid. That was the way the model was. The interns were the existing model. The interns were not funded or paid anything. Now it's required by state of California to pay a baseline hourly wage is required. So those things slowly put a wrench in the way things have worked. And so they're currently in the process of, that's what drove them to the discussion where they're at. It's why the cost that you saw that their quote came from Pacific Clinic was so much higher. It's because they took all those factors into account. And they couldn't figure out a way to wretch it or recalibrate it.
So I was gonna ask, and I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you this, Claire, because having seen what CHAC has gone through, because I know they didn't pay their interns and it's a very unsustainable model. And ACS is roughly the same age as CHAC, right? CHAC is 51, ACS is 49. They both have interns. Are they paying their interns? Like, I don't want to be in the situation where ACS is gonna go away and we need to find something else.
I believe that they are.
It's required by law. There's no
Yeah.
choice. They have to.
But they're, but see, CHAC has to pay their interns now and they can't.
It was, there's a
But
lot of
is
other
ACS
issues that are,
yeah.
ACS probably doesn't have the building infrastructure that CHAC had. And I don't think they had the other services that CHAC was trying to fund. And it's gone down the reserves to try to fund that were not financially stable.
Okay.
So that's, I think, where the government.
Okay.
So we'll be bringing a contract at your next meeting and consent for ACS for our services for next year. That's outlined.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with ACS as a?
If clearance, yes.
So we've had a really, really wonderful relationship with Chuck. It was a really hard decision to make. And prior to this year, ACS and Chuck actually had like a non-compete because they're very similar. But with the recent pending acquisition, I think ACS is gonna, I mean, it's new, it's different for us, right? But I do think, I'm comfortable with their model and talking to their leadership, and, I think it'll be a great partnership.
Some of the other former districts that worked with Jack are looking at ACS to help them support their mental needs in their campuses, so that we're not the only group moving that direction.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
Will you take a look at the finances of ACS?
We are not on their boards. We are not involved in them from that point of view. So the chat, the district don't own that oversight that we did with chat.
No, I understand, but they're presumably a nonprofit.
I don't know anything about them. We had a relationship with chat and we are as a JPM member. We're on their board. That's not true with ACS. So we have that insight.
If they are a nonprofit, we can get a hold of their.
I can look into that.
No.
I know the neighbor, Todd's Palo team uses them and has been using them. As far as I can tell, I remember, most big Castle loved them.
Okay, and Menlo Park has used them. I talked to them as well, and they're very happy with their services.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I should have asked, are there any requests for public comment on this end? Okay. I'm glad to see that both the bilingual providers and to hear about the flex, because I think that it's always difficult staffing a year in advance when you don't know exactly what the demand will be and you have to sign contracts and then you end up with a whole lot of kids at one school for various reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm also glad you used the word triage because school districts, we end up somehow owning kids from like start to finish in the mind of a lot of people, but like what we're trying to do is support the kids because these resources aren't available in a large part out in the community where arguably they should be, but we do what we can.
Yeah, we're excited. I'll keep you guys updated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to I2 bond survey results.
Yes, so we're happy to have Jessica here from EMC Research and Jeremy from T Civics. I can't. Time. To talk, they'll give you the background, but do a recent poll around the feasibility of a bond. So thank you, Jessica, for being here. Do we have? I just did not. Oh, yeah.
Great. While we pull that up, I will, excellent. Okay, here is a summary of results from the recent survey of voters in the district regarding a potential bond measure. A few notes on the methodology of the survey. In order to reach a representative sample of likely November voters here in the district, we used multimodal methodology incorporating live telephone interviews along with online interviews where we reach voters by either email or text invitation. 400 interviews overall carries a margin of error of plus or minus 4.9 percentage points. So keep that in mind as we look through the data. And we did offer the survey in both English and Chinese languages. So some key findings here, and then I'll share some of the more detailed results. Starting with a little bit of good news, we do see that the overall economic outlook among local voters is a little bit more optimistic than it was when we asked a question about economic conditions a year ago. We see that the district continues to receive overwhelmingly positive ratings related to the job it's doing overall, along with student academic achievements. When it comes to a potential bond measure, we see that a measure to update and repair existing schools and pave the way for construction of a 10th campus is right near the 55% threshold for passage
And when we see that we offer more information about a potential measure over the course of the survey, we see only a little bit of a change in support over the course of the survey. So here is that economic outlook question that we've been asking for several years now, thinking about the future. How do you expect economic conditions to be 6 months from now? Would you say substantially better, moderately better, the same, moderately worse, or substantially worse than today? You can see the summary of better, the same, or worse over time. And back in March of 2023, we saw the plurality, 38% said things would be worse. Things would be better in June of 2023, when only 28% said things would be worse. And now we see only 13% say, I think economic conditions will be worse 6 months from now. 42% say they think things would be better. So that's considerably more optimistic. For this perception of the need for additional funding for the district question, would you say that the elementary and junior high schools in the Los Altos School District have a great need for more money, some need for more money, only a little need for more money, or no real need for more money? Helps us really gauge perception of need. You can see we've been asking this question since back in 2010. We don't see a lot of change over the last couple of iterations of the survey, just under half seeing a great or some need for additional funding. We do see 23% who see no need for additional funding, but that portion has softened a little bit compared to the 28% who said they saw no need for additional funding last year. So here is the district's overall grade from voters. We said students are often given the grades of A, B, C, D, and F to denote the quality of their work. Suppose the public schools in your community were graded in the same way, what grade would you give the district? And you can see overwhelmingly positive grades, 41% giving the district an A, 42% a B, and just around 1 in 10 a C, D, or F. So very, very positive grades. And that's consistent over time here in the district. A few more ratings where we asked voters to grade the district on management of district monies, student academic achievement and test scores, and the quality of buildings and grounds. You can see here that the ratings are fairly consistent over time, although we're seeing a little bit of an increase in the positive A and B grades on management of monies, student academic achievement, and even the quality of buildings and grounds. But simultaneously a little bit of softening on the A, so overall increase and still overwhelmingly positive ratings on all three of these items. Also, a few questions to help us gauge how voters are feeling about taxes right now and investments in local schools, along with trust in the district to manage tax dollars. The items on the bottom, I'll start with maintaining the quality of our schools should be a top priority, even if it means raising taxes. We do see that about 80% at least somewhat agree with that statement. So certainly values, and you can see they've been very consistent over time. The values of the voter community are that it is worthwhile to maintain high quality local schools, even if it means raising taxes. The vast majority, 71%, say they trust the district to properly manage their tax dollars. And on the top, the portion who agree with the statement, I would never vote in the tax, no matter what the money raised would be used for, is very low. It's only 18%. The vast majority, 81%, disagree. So certainly the willingness to invest in local schools. Now here is a potential bond measure that we tested in the survey to upgrade aging schools, enhance science, technology, engineering, and math classrooms and labs, construct facilities to relieve junior high school overcrowding, fix leaky roofs and windows, and modernize aging heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical systems. Shall the district's measure be adopted, authorizing $350 million in bonds at legal rates, levying approximately $30 per $100,000 of assessed value, averaging 20.3 million annually, while bonds are outstanding, with oversight, audits, all funds for elementary and junior high facilities. So you can see here when we asked if the election were held today, how would you vote on this measure? 54% initially say they would vote yes, Another 2% were undecided, but when prompted which way do you lean, they lean toward yes. And when you total those, you get 56% initial support, hovering right at that 55% threshold. And you have a total of 43% inclined to vote no, and only 2% start out undecided. On this slide, we took each of the potential components of a bond measure and asked voters about them individually. We asked on a scale from 1 to 7, where 1 is not at all important and 7 is extremely important. How would you rate each one? And you can see here the portion that rated each one is a 7, a 6, or a 5, and then the total, any of those numbers is the total important on the far right side. When it comes to the highest portion of 7s, the top projects are fixing leaky roofs and windows, improving traffic flow and safety around schools, and improving accessibility for students with disabilities. But if we look at the highest totals, the projects are around roofs and windows again, around enhancing STEM classrooms and labs, and modernizing aging heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical systems. And as you move down this list, you can see most of these are important to a majority, including the third to the bottom, constructing facilities to relieve junior high school overcrowding, which is important to 62% of local voters. And then we offered in the survey a few additional pieces of information about the benefits and the features of a measure, a bond measure. And we asked for each one, is this a very convincing, somewhat convincing, not too convincing, or not at all convincing reason to support the measure. So we would understand what are the most important pieces of information in order for the community to understand the benefit of the measure. Rising to the top on this slide is the summary here. Some of our school facilities are over 25 years old, aging and in urgent need of repairs. The measure will allow for essential repairs and upgrades to provide a safe, healthy learning environment for all students. 84% of respondents consider that a convincing reason to support the measure, followed by a summary of the classes that are held in old and deteriorating portable classrooms that are well past their useful age, presenting safety issues for students. The measure will replace aging portables with permanent classrooms. 77% find that a convincing reason to support the measure. The third one on this slide, 74% find the fiscal accountability features of a potential measure to be convincing as a reason to support the measure. And then some more pieces of information on this slide that are also convincing to the majority, starting at the top, where an explanation of how the 10 of the community schools are forced to share 9 campuses. So this measure would provide the funding needed to construct a permanent 10th campus so that we could solve the junior high school overcrowding problem and have an individual campus for each of our schools. 65% find that to be a convincing reason to support the measure. And then statements around relieving traffic around the schools, around relieving junior high school overcrowding, and around clearing some of the tallest hurdles in preparing to move charter school students to a new campus. These are all convincing to a majority of voters. Once we provided that information, we asked again how voters would vote on the bond measure, and they were presented with the measure again. And then we also provided some of the things you might hear from an opponent of the measure, things about how maybe the measure isn't needed or shouldn't be needed. And so after each the positive and the negative, we asked again, how would you vote on the measure? And you can see very little difference over the course of the survey. We do increase from 56% total yes to 58% with information about the need and the benefits, and then just under 55% after what you would hear from an opponent of the measure, 53% support. And then lastly, just wanted to share with you some historical context where we're showing here some of the votes, the initial votes in survey research on bond measures here in the district over time, dating back to the last 10 years. Those are in purple, and then the measure N support on election day at 57%, very, very close to where we are in this survey. In initial support on the survey. So I just wanted to share that context, and then I will hand it over to Jeremy
for some next steps, and then I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jessica. Nice to see you all again. Just wanted to take a minute or two to talk about process and next steps and walk through a timeline that you all have probably seen 15 times now, but wanted to reorient you all to the process to get a bond measure on the ballot. And I'll just start by saying, like most measures in your district, these numbers are coming in right at the margin needed for approval. Given the long history of research that EMC is conducting in your district, as well as the subsequent election results, we are confident that there is a path forward here for a bond measure at the $350 million amount. And so it's our recommendation that we move forward in this process into phases 2 and 3 that you can see on this. So we've adequately tested the feasibility of a measure. Again, we've tested the various components. Some are more popular than others, but overall, we do see buy-in at that 55% threshold for a bond. So it's, we're asking to move forward into phase 2 to start building awareness about this measure. This looks like a lot of the work we've done in the lead up to prior successful measures here in your district, non-advocacy communications, think direct mail and online content. We've actually already started this process. There's been a mail piece that was sent out late last week, soliciting feedback from the community and providing a little bit more information about your plans to potentially pursue a bond. We also recommend stakeholder outreach in a more targeted one-on-one way to internal stakeholders, parents, teachers, classified staff, and also external audiences, business groups, organized labor, and other folks in the area who will likely have a say on this measure when it's on the ballot in the fall. We also recommend that you continue to work to update your facilities master plan so that your community can understand in a very detailed and specific way the needs in your schools and how a bond might address those needs. And really our goal in this process is to gauge community readiness, right? We've gotten a pretty good sense from the polling that there is an appetite for a bond measure this fall. The awareness building process will allow you to stress test your proposal a little bit more and understand the nuances that your community might be wanting to see and understand a little bit more as you're targeting a November ballot. Assuming the awareness building process goes well, we recommend moving into phase 3, the actual development of the measure itself. Like with past measures, we're recommending doing a tracking poll in the summer to check back in with the voters and test the final components to be included in a bond measure and understand if opinions about the district or the plan have changed over the previous few months as you're out in the community speaking about the measure. Assuming that poll gives us a green light to go forward, we would come back to you as a board with a final resolution, which would include all of the necessary details to actually qualify for the ballot. That would include a final project list that would outline the use of funds for a bond measure. It would include that key 75-word ballot question that we know every voter will read when they're filling out their ballot. And it'll include that tax rate statement that explains the tax scenarios needed to generate that $350 million bonding capacity. The deadline to qualify for the ballot this November is August 9th. So that is the date by which we need to bring back a resolution to you all to review and approve, should we target that November election. And at that point, there would be a bit of a passing of the baton to an independent campaign group. As you all know, the district cannot use funds to advocate for the passage of a measure. So there would need to be an independent group to form to do the fundraising, outreach, and grassroots organizing that we've seen be successful here in the past. So with that, I think either I or Jessica are happy to answer any questions right now.
Okay, any questions? Any preliminary questions?
I'm surprised there was no Spanish version of questionnaires.
Yeah, in this district, what we look at we don't look at the portion of people in the area who speak Spanish. We look at the portion of registered voters who request ballots in that language, which is usually identical to the portion who would take a survey in another language, and it's very, very low. I think it's lower than 1% in the district, so I can double check that, but it's low enough that it wouldn't be necessary for a survey.
How many was there for Mandarin, out of curiosity?
I'll get that answer to you. I don't have that, sorry.
I didn't originally have that question.
So apparently, allegedly, and I have more information than what I'm going to share with you now, and could be wrong, but anyway. Apparently, the Supreme Court, California Supreme court is considering whether or not a particular ballot initiative is a constitutional amendment, which is okay, but if it's a constitutional, if they decide it's actually a constitutional revision, it's not okay, it won't appear. And the measure essentially says that any tax increase whatsoever, anything, has to get 2/3 approval. And this applies to parking meter, whatever. And any tax, what they determine to be a tax, that passed in the past, I don't know how far back, but at least a year or so probably, that didn't meet the 2/3 margin will be annulled. Will this affect, if that passes, it's declared to be a constitutional amendment as opposed to a revision, and it does pass, will this affect us?
But if it passes, it also has to pass by 2/3. You're talking about CBRT,
I have
the
no idea,
California Business Roundtable?
probably.
Because what they're saying is they want to propose that amendment that.
I've spent many, many hours looking into this.
Yeah.
So I believe you're talking about the Taxpayer Protection and Accountability
Yeah.
Act.
Yeah.
And Governor Newsom has asked for an emergency injunction to keep it off the ballot.
Yeah.
If it does pass, it only affects special taxes. And so ad valorem taxes are not considered special taxes. It would look backwards, back to January 1, 2022, but it would be for things like parcel taxes, not for general obligation bonds.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's fine.
Are there any requests for public comment on this item? Any further board questions?
Oh, just a quick question. For this building, like, what is the timeline for that? I know we're in it now, but until, or is it just continuous?
I would say it runs until August, honestly. I envision, like most other measures, we'll be back in front of you at the 11th hour to approve the resolution. And really, we recommend doing that work up until you as a board have acted to place measure on the back.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now move on to I3, LASD and BCS discussions.
Yeah.
Sandra, well, I don't know, Sandra just handed immediately to you.
Yes, let's do it that way.
Yeah, I'm fine for Jessica to give the update for both of us.
And you can always, yeah, I forgot stuff, so I'm sure. So we've met with them again on 4/23. We've continued advocating the position of the majority of this board, which is we would like them to go to the town site. With the, you know, we would like the entirety of them to go to the town site. So we've continued advocating that position. At this meeting, at the 4/23 meeting and the meeting prior, which was, I think, the first, on the 10th site, we emphasized that tonight there is a chance that we would be approving a design build contract for the 10th site. And that it would be nice if they would agree to something, agree to go to the 10th site. And if they did so, that meant that they would have decision-making power, or at least to be at the table when the 10th site was being designed, yes. So that was emphasized at both of these meetings. And then also, based on our discussions, we're still discussing. And we have another meeting scheduled for May 14th. So nothing much more to add. We've just been continuing to emphasize our position. And we have not come to an agreement as of yet.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
You said, I think, that the desire was to have all of BCS on the 10th site.
Correct.
Does that mean that they would accept a 900 student cap?
They haven't agreed to anything.
No, I know.
Yes.
It was that.
That was the idea, was what we had, the majority of this board had said in public sessions prior, that the ideal situation is them at the 10 site, 900 students with a with or without we emphasize the neighborhood preference for sure. But those were all things that a majority of the board had.
Right. My question was, do they understand that part of our expectation is that they have a 900 student cap?
They do, that has been emphasized to them, several times as what the board has, directed us to tell them.
Okay.
Any requests for public comment on this item? Yeah. Any further questions or discussion? All right, thank you to both of you for your ongoing efforts. We move on to I4, resolution 23/24-16, award of alternative design build contract for the 10th site.
Sure, district staff issued a request for qualifications for design builders for the 10th site. And we received it in March, and then subsequently went through a RFP process. We received 2 proposals from 2 very well qualified builders, design builders in the Bay Area. During the selection process, interviews were conducted, and they were ranked accordingly, according to the RFP criteria. And the district is asking the board tonight to issue a resolution. The resolution is in order to meet the design build process. The board actually has to approve the resolution stating this, and that we're going to award a design build contract to Block Construction for not to exceed amount of $4.329,976. We are designing to an $85 million project budget. That is only hard cost, not soft cost. Inspections and other fees are going to be associated with the project. Once the project gets moving along, we'll be asking the board to do an amendment to the contract for a not to exceed amount that will be increased based on the size and scope of the project and who goes there and what gets determined on the project scope. The board will be approving the contract today. It is a not to exceed amount. However, Block Construction will be designing the project with the intent that a bond will be passed in order to execute the project. If the bond does not pass, the district will only have to pay for the design fees up until that point. So there'll be no risk for any other design fees up to that point. And there'll be some pre-construction services also from Block. And so we're asking the board tonight to approve a design build contract and approve resolution 23/24-16 tonight.
Any questions? Board members? I have one question. Eric, can you just sort of give a broad overview of what the design timeline is gonna look like? Like, when would they get started? When's that might stuff come to us? How much are they gonna get done before November?
I would hope we'll start next week. There'll be a lot of programming and thoughts on the layout of the buildings and where they're gonna go, and it's gonna be very high level. But the sooner we get started, it will save the district money. We won't be in construction drawings or anything super detailed for DSA submittal for a while. But those can be a lot of initial meetings and outreach with stakeholders, so it's very important that we get started sooner. The other thing is both design builders that propose have a pretty good schedule in mind. And the longer we wait, the more it will cost us because of cost escalation. Construction costs in the area are like no other place in the world, just like home prices. So it's in our best interest to try to move as quickly as possible in the design phase. By November, we should have a lot of ideas of where things are gonna be laid out, parking flow and things like that.
Okay. And is that, I mean, how much back and forth sort of with us is there gonna be in terms of this sort of layout and approvals and that kind of stuff?
We'll probably have to get back to you on that, but we can bring that back at a future meeting and talk about, we can get the timelines a little more dialed in.
Yes.
Along those lines, you know, I mentioned that we emphasized to the charter school that if they decided earlier rather than later than to accept our offer of the 10 cents. Like when is it ideally for them to come, like their staff? I know it's not a board thing, but like they're starting to be part of the process.
You know, I probably like the first 2 weeks, it probably won't, there's gonna be a lot of back and forth, executing the contract, getting things in place. But I think before, probably in the next 3 weeks, I think it's very important for their staff to be involved about what programs go in there, what their programs do and how they function. 'Cause that's a pretty important impact that, you know, feedback the architects are gonna need as they're going through the programming stage. And then they start working up schematic design and then we keep moving forward. So I think it's pretty important, probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you.
What parts of the design have to be approved by DSA?
The entire project.
So does this imply that all the blueprints have to be approved? So what happened to the prefab things that we looked at?
This will be a prefabricated building system.
This will not?
No, this will be.
So I thought those were DSA pre-approved, or whatever the phrasing is.
They do, but DSA still has to review, fire life safety, they have to review access compliance for ADA compliance, they have to review the whole site, they have to review the fields. All the fields and the parking lots, everything is to be reviewed.
One thing because I was on the discussion group, one thing they clarified is that the pre-approval gives them, speeds up that process. Normally can take years. This cuts it down to months. So that by leveraging pre-approved two-story buildings that the block is done with DSA numerous times, that will speed up the process, but it doesn't mean that DSA isn't involved.
Okay.
You have to go through DSA involvement, no way to do.
All right. Another question. Can we start construction before DSA approval or not?
There will be, during the pre-construction phase, sometimes DSA will let you do, what's called like demolition and utilities, and you can sometimes move ahead with that first before final DSA approval. And that's an advantage to get things staged and ready to go. So once DSA approves, you can kind of hit the ground running. And this is a pretty big, project, and there'll be a lot of utilities, site utility tie-ins. To order a switch gear, which is the main electrical panel that feeds the whole campus and ties into PG&E. It's like a long lead item, so some of those things take a year long to get. So the sooner we get people under contract and get things moving, we can procure those long lead items and kind of get ready for construction. They're very common. You can do a phase 1 demolition phase, and then the phase 2 would be pending DSA approval of the actual buildings.
Did I ask about public comment on this item already? No public comment. Any further discussion? Then I will ask for a motion to approve resolution 23/24-16.
So moved.
Second. All right, any further discussion of the motion? Motion to approve resolution 23/24-16 made by Shelley, seconded by Steve. I will call a roll since this is a resolution. Jessica,
Yes.
Shelley,
Yes.
Vladimir,
No.
Steve.
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 4-1. Moving on to I-5 alternative design build contract for the 10 sites.
Sure. So now that the board has approved, resolution 23/24-16, at this time, we're asking the board to actually approve the actual contract, which always comes after the resolution, and so we're asking the board to approve the contract saying with block construction for the, design build for the 10 site.
Any more questions on the contract itself? Which I'm sure we all read right here.
Yes, we did.
Could it have been any shorter?
Any requests for public comment? Is there anything? I'm assuming that sort of other than the dependence on the bond, all the other documents are pretty standard for.
Yes, and we,
Types of contract.
yes, and during these contracts, there is a lot of negotiation back and forth, most likely, most of it's on the indemnity language. About, hold harmless, and many of those things that get, negotiated with Block, we worked with Block Construction in the past. We were able to come to an agreement on the contract language, which is the most important thing. No concerns, all of the contracts are approved by legal counsel and they get reviewed to make sure they follow public contract code, and they also obviously protect the district best interest.
Any further discussion? Not seeing any, so would anyone like to make a motion to approve the contract with Block Construction for this alternative design build services for the 10 site?
So moved.
Second. Motion, assuming no further board discussion, motion made by Shelley, seconded by Steve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say no.
No,
Motion passes 4-1. Moving on to I6, the board governance handbook.
All right, so you have received your draft of the board governance handbook. We worked on this several months ago, and thank you for allowing me time to kind of put all of your ideas and resources together tonight. Because this is a draft, tonight I am looking to see edits, changes, if you have things marked up on yours and want to just give them to me. If you actually have something you would
Oh my
like to
goodness.
discuss, I'm a little bit afraid on here. If there's something you'd like to discuss with the whole group, but our goal is to really get this dialed in and make it a useful document for you, for our larger governance team, and for the public, and to get that solidified by our last meeting in June. So I'm happy to take suggestions, edits, etc.
All right, we're basically going straight into discussion. So are there any requests for public comment on this item? No, okay.
I have some nits that I won't go over other than we have Jack listed on board appointments.
Yep,
So I'm thinking we take Jack off.
sure.
And then there was something about, being informed, under board member protocols on 11, such as those sponsored by, I think we add county, state, and national school boards association, although we don't do anything with the National School Boards Association, but we do stuff with the county. It's a nit, but I just wanted to highlight that because we do a lot with the county school boards association. So I think. we
So
should be
county
more-
and state.
County and state, and I think we pull off because we're like, we don't really do anything.
But would we ever in the future do something?
Maybe, I don't, I'm okay with us keeping it. I'm just emphasizing what we do, Jack, with.
Yeah.
With
could you please define Jack?
Nada. Nothing. And then my other things are literally just some, wordsmithing that does not change any definition. So here you go.
Thank you.
Shelley.
Oh, no. But when will we see another draft of this? Another iteration?
Hopefully by our next meeting, I'll have whatever updates we hear tonight.
Maybe do a red line, like she should be changing.
That would be very helpful.
Yes, we can do that.
Last. On page 9.
Yeah.
under process for addressing board member policy violations.
Yes,
1, 2, third paragraph, item B.
yeah.
I don't think a majority of the board can formally remove another board member. We could censure them.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry for interrupting you. So I think I had a comment which is the same as yours, which is there are commas needed here. Because I think what it means to say is possible removal, comma, by a formal vote, yada, 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 comma, from any leadership or committee positions.
Oh, okay, all right.
to which the offended member has been
Yeah,
appointed.
that's how I read it.
Yeah,
But yes, the
I-
comma is helpful.
that's right. We can't remove each other, but we can remove from position.
Try.
Didn't Natalie Wisdom remove somebody at some point? Or was that- was it-
I think you could probably throw a board member out for,
Okay.
misbehavior.
But did that
That's
person
actually
leave?
super not clear. You can censure, I don't think we can actually kick anybody out of a meeting unless it gets like super threatening or whatever. But anyway, I think that
Not New Lisbon, didn't they get a restraining order against one of the board members?
the board members there have been restraining orders, particularly by district staff against board members. And then, given threatening enough behavior, I'm sure we could get restraining orders, which would then be found. But, right, I mean, you know, we're preparing for the worst, but.
Our newest principals.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. As long as the comments go in
Yes,
there.
I will add those
And
comments.
you maybe consider rewording.
Yep.
That's all.
Steve,
I have no strong direction.
I had a couple of comments. The board member protocol section, I thought was,
Give me a page number.
oh, sorry, page 7,
Okay,
going on to page 8. Most of it's on page 8.
yeah,
This is just kind of a grab bag. I think
Yeah.
it could be grouped maybe into, if there were some subgroupings,
buckets of.
some buckets of
Okay.
things, because I think it's just kind of
Yeah, I think we.
Bucket one,
Laundry list.
bucket two, bucket three.
Yeah,
That's what
teams. I mean, I think like the protocols, I think apply to like 3 or 4, I can't remember, I read it a while ago,
Yeah.
different themes, and it'd be good to just sort of subdivide it. So that it's clear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
The calendar, can't remember which page this was on,
At the end-ish.
was it at the end?
On 11, board working calendar.
Ah, yes, thank you. This is a little unreadable, I think, so I don't know if we can do a table in this kind of format, but if we could reorganize that a little bit. I think it's actually, well,
Instead of a list.
This is exactly how we see it most of the time in the board.
well,
But I
that's
agree.
true, but I
I
think
agree.
it's hard to keep track of, like,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
I
there's.
agree.
There's really sort of time and then there's topic. Like the way I think about it is as a sort of 2-dimensional grid of time versus topic, so that if you want to sort of see how the budget cycle works, you can look at one thing. And then if you want to see that everything happens in September, you can
Yeah.
see another thing.
Our actual board working calendar is in that, it's in a spreadsheet.
Right,
And it
right.
works in that way. This, I believe, was copy and pasted from, the January.
Yep. It's absolutely what we see every
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
But
oh,
I
the
agree.
January thing.
It is, it could look.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can take this
Yeah,
screenshot
it
of the
would probably
spreadsheet
need
and paste
to
it in here. or-
be a full page.
Yeah, yeah.
Sideways.
We don't need
kind
to
of
submit
thing.
it right now,
Yep,
but that's
yeah,
just my
I'll
feedback
work
on the section.
And we'll see which we like better in the end.
And then the other question I had, I think on page 12, I just had a question about board committee, sort of board, the section that's board appointments. We've also at sometimes, although I guess they've always been ad hoc, had like superintendent committees, sort of 2 of us working with the superintendent on something in a way that's not the Brown Act. But I don't know why I called that out, because I think this is fine, so never mind. Just going through my notes, which I wrote a month ago.
Thinking out loud, it's all good.
All right, any other useful comments? As opposed to not, all right,
All right,
Sandra, you have everything you need?
yep,
Great.
clean that up for you for next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to I7, resolution 23/24-17. Return of the Tran.
Yes, this is a routine item that we do every year. Unfortunately, we only receive tax revenue from the assessor's office, periodic disbursements mostly. We get several in November, December, January. And then there is a time where our cash is a little low. So every year the district has been borrowing. Last year we borrowed $10 million. This year we're doing a not to exceed amount of $8 million. It was also very important to remember, we'll be going to the rating agencies. And one of the most important things the rating agencies look at is our fund balance. It impacts our ratings to get a Tran, and then also for our bond ratings, which we'll be doing, hopefully, type of bond passes in November, that's very important to have a healthy fund balance. So it's very important for us to do this. And helps us maintain our cash flow to pay our bills until the first property tax disbursement comes in November. So it's a routine item. So we're asking you tonight to approve resolution 2324 -17, authorizing the issuance of the tax revenue anticipation notes.
Any questions from the board? Any questions, public comment? Any further discussions? Or would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Assuming no further board discussion, motion to approve resolution 23/24-17, authorizing the issuance of tax and revenue anticipation notes made by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. I have to call the roll since it's a resolution. Jessica,
Yeah.
Shally,
Yes.
Vladimir.
Yep.
Steve?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to I8, award of contract for food service vendor.
Two years ago, the board approved a contract with Revolution Foods. It was a 2-year contract. And that contract was expiring, so the district felt it was in its best interest to go out for an RFP for food service vendors for this year, for the upcoming 24-25 school year. We received 3 proposals. They were all evaluated. We actually had a taste test with students and parents were here, some staff members. We had some principals from elementary schools and middle schools. It was in the I-Learn and there was food everywhere and it was quite a fun day. But the proposals were evaluated on taste, quality, capability of providing the service to the district. We do have 9 schools, and the vendor has to be able to meet our delivery schedules. Food quality is important, price is important. All these factors are weighed together. We received some really good references from San Carlos School District and from Menlo Park, who used LunchMaster. We finished negotiations with LunchMaster last week. Mostly on the indemnity language as well. We felt their customer service, which we feel is very important. Sometimes vendors will say they give you good customer service, but they don't really deliver. We got really good references and we felt pretty confident. We were only gonna do a 1-year agreement with them. We didn't feel like we wanted to lock in a 2-year agreement. 2 years ago, I think it was in the district's best interest to do a 2-year agreement because it's a brand new program. Nobody really knew anything about it. We have been working closely with CSA to provide any extra food to reuse food so it doesn't go to waste. So we kind of know when their food distribution is for community service agency. We're working on recycling more, things that we've heard from complaints from parents. We've got more bins for composting from Recology. So a lot of other things we're working on. But providing a vendor that's gonna provide quality meals for our kids at a low cost. Our participation rates, I think at the beginning of the program were very high because it's a very novel and new thing. They have waned, and when you talk to other school districts, their participation rates are about the same as ours, between 35% and 40%, depending on the school site. So we feel this is a good contract for us for 1 year, and so we're asking the board to approve the contract with LunchMaster for 1 calendar year for 24-25 school year.
Any questions from the board?
And they're a local firm in San Carlos, so they make the foods locally and deliver every day. So I think it's a good contract for the district.
Eric, just one question.
Yes.
I think, and I could be mistaken on this. High probability I'm mistaken, that new nutritional guidelines are being issued or discussed or something like that. And so I'm just wondering what nutritional guidelines they follow.
They have to meet in order to qualify for the RFP for the district. They have all the vendors had to be able to meet the guidelines of the national school and national breakfast programs. So their meals have to be compliant meals for us to get reimbursed. So that's part of the contract.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Any requests for public comment? Any further discussion? Or I am open to a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Just for clarification, motion to approve the contract with the LunchMaster for student meals for the 2024-25 school year. Made by Vladimir, seconded by Shally. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. I9, resolution 2324-18, authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds.
Sure, and I want to thank Katie and Makiko for being here tonight. Katie Dobson is our bond counsel from Jones Hall, Makiko Sato is with ISM Advisors, financial advisors. They're both here to support our all these resolutions that we've got going on tonight. This is a resolution from 2014 from Measure N. We still have 85 remaining in authorization. The bond anticipation notes are due in October. So our goal is to get our financing in place. And in order to do that, the board has to authorize the final authorization of $85 million. All the resolutions have been reviewed by bond counsel. And then we'll be asking the board tonight to approve this resolution. We have 85 in remaining authorization. We have to pay off $79 million bond anticipation note. But part of that payoff of the bond anticipation note will be using some of the transfer development rights, so about $10.4 million from the Sobrato company. That will be also used to help defray the cost of that, paying back that note. And then I can kind of let Makiko and Katie answer any questions. They're the experts in the room.
Any questions? Okay. Any requests for public comment on this item? I feel bad if I make them stay this long. I don't ask a single question. I'm trying to come up with a
Well,
question.
and they're great partners to the district, and I appreciate all their help and support. It's very calming for me when I know I have good people on the team, and that helps protect the district's and taxpayers' best interest. So we appreciate Makiko and Katie for helping guide us through the process.
Is there a time frame for issuance of this if we approve authorization tonight?
We're expecting that you'll receive the funds in July.
July.
This will start the process. We'll go through the rating that Eric mentioned earlier, circulate the preliminary official statement to investors, market funds, and then sell in June, close in July.
Gotcha. Thank you.
One of the fun parts is for president is when they issue it, you do sign a bunch of bonds.
Yes.
I look forward to that.
Have fun. When we issued those bonds in 2019, they were a good full circle moment for me, having run the bond campaign for Measure N. So.
And this will be the last authorization for Measure N.
Correct.
All right. Absent further discussion, I'm willing to entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion to approve resolution 23/24-18, authorizing the issuance and sale not to exceed $85 million of general obligation bonds and approval of all the related documents, made by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley. Absent any further discussion, I will have to call the roll. Steve?
Yes.
Vladimir?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. I-10, resolution 23/24-19. Requesting a very long sentence from the Board of Supervisors.
Part of the levy rates, we'll be asking the Board of Supervisors to set the tax rate for this next authorization. And do you want to talk a little bit about the timing of it? Because we want to do this now because the tax rates have to be set in July. So there's a timing component of this, why we're doing this now. Last year, we did a little bit later in the year, and the county is very, I guess I could say directive with us to make sure we get this to them in a timely manner. But we just got an email like, when are you going to send us your tax rate? So this is the perfect timing. So thank you, Makiko.
Oh, no problem. I think you've covered it, so I don't. But yeah, the deadline is May 17th for this tax rate resolution, so you're right on schedule.
Yeah, and we have to pass it, and then the county board have to pass the resolution on their end.
So it's just a bunch of bureaucracy is what you're
Yes.
saying? I mean, we're part of it.
Any further questions from the board? Any requests for public comment? Absent further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to move that we approve resolution 23/24-19, requesting the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County to establish tax rate for bonds in the Los Altos School District expected to be sold during the fiscal year 2024 and authorizing necessary action. Yes.
I'll second.
Motion made by Vladimir, seconded by Shelley. Absent any further board discussion, I will call the roll. Jessica?
Yes.
Shelley?
Yes.
Vladimir?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your hard work and for staying
Thank you.
so late on a Monday. I-11, board policy update.
All right, we have just a few brief updates to come for first discussion. As usual, please take some time to review, and if you have some questions or concerns, they will come back for approval at our next meeting.
And then also I-12.
Yep,
approving
and
all
we
those
have
too.
one deletion, which is our COVID-19 mitigation plan is being deleted by CSBA, so.
Yeah, this actually says migration. Is that a typo?
No, this is
Mine says
mitigation.
mitigation.
Your advisor,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, okay. In this copy, it says migration.
Oh, that must be a typo.
That's a
Yeah.
typo.
Yes, but that one
Anyway.
will be a deletion coming to you again for discussion right now and for approval at our next meeting.
This is
Yeah.
kind of random and it has literally nothing to do with the specific updates we have here.
Yeah.
I've noticed, and I don't know that whether local districts do this, but I know that, actually, I do know at least one local district who does it. They have committees that, whether it's board members working with admin each time they come around to possibly wordsmith it ahead of time. Most of these are really gonna be rubber stamping, because it's law, but there's sometimes when we have those. And I don't know if there's an interest that we do something like that. We don't have to, I just wanted to let you know that there is a practice. I know the county board of education does that.
Mhm.
And it may be something, sorry.
Are you offering to be on that?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Resolution 23.
We have a process that Marcy manages working with CSBA and the materials, and then we have our staff team. So she and I meet to go over the list that comes in. I can't remember if it's quarterly, but it's on some regular cadence. And we talk about which ones are appropriate for our K district, because some of them are high school specific. And then we talk about who is the reviewer. So many of them go to Eric, or they'll go to Carrie, or they'll go to Erin, or I will take them on. And then she has a whole, well, you see the drafts of the kind of red line and additions and deletions and what have you. But if there's an interest in adding someone to the mix, happy to.
It may just make it so that when you get these, it's not a surprise that we've come up with some additions. It's another way to be a good collaborative governance team, I think. But. That's too.
Yeah, well, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Put it on the next time.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was trying to figure out is
Yeah.
we might need to agendize it if we want to make it a board appointment.
Yeah.
Okay. Board administration comments.
A few, we had a great kickoff meeting last week with Cyberco and, several meetings ago that the board approved a contract for design build for the Cal Shape program. And so we had a kickoff meeting with the maintenance staff, and we're gonna be getting the schedule together and hopefully kick the, HVAC, assessment, project going on, and that'll be happening this summer. We'd like to get started this summer. The public comment period for CEQA closed on Thursday, May 2nd. So we received a few comments. Amy, who is our CEQA consultant, will be putting together all the comments and proposed mitigated measures, and we'll be getting that to you soon. And there'll be a review period for us to do that. We had a property tax meeting with the assessor's office. I'll give you some projections of what next year's property taxes they're looking at. And every school district has seen a slow in property tax growth. It's still growing, but not at the pace it was in the past several years. So we'll be analyzing their numbers and putting them in our budget, which we're working on now. And Stella Cam is here with CACF. Thank you, Stella, for being here and sitting through the meeting. The CACF had a great meeting 2 weeks ago, looking at our end of year report. The parcel tax report card will be going out to the community soon. Really good news. They've kind of updated some graphics. Thank you to Stella. They're her team. I don't know if they're like the communications team, but they've got like communications and really kind of made the graphics look a little bit nicer on the report card. So that's a really nice thing. And I really want to thank Sandra Bush for one being here, but she really, she really helps support the entire district in many ways. Not just the business office, but she supports facility rental, developer fees. She was very excited when she showed me, Eric, we received our developer fees, we're gonna meet our budget. I said, good job, Sandra. But I really want to thank her. She supports me directly and is a valuable person in our department and I just love having her. And she doesn't have to come to many of these meetings, but when she's here, of course, she, knocked it out of the park as usual. So thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
I noticed that you prevented any public comment from coming. Thank you.
You'll get a copy tomorrow for that.
Dr. Bosco?
Thank you. Similar to Erica's and thank yous, we're reaching the end of our CATS testing and our schools. We're in makeup testing right now. So I want to thank our school sites, but specifically our tech department. It has been such a joy to work directly with our tech team. This year, Val, Donna, and Kim, as well as our tech specialists. They've had a big lift, whether it was the Gmail migration, a new network, rolling phones, the one-to-one junior high rollout, and now just cast us. I'm really grateful for them and just want to acknowledge them.
Sandra?
Nothing else.
Jessica?
Oh, I get to go first this time. Ooh. I joined the Covington PTA meeting as part of the awareness roadshow of the possibility of a bond. So I let them know what we were pondering. I went to the Kids in Common event put on by the county and Kids in Common. Then went to the Mentor Tutor Connection event fundraiser for a wonderful partner of ours. I helped run the SEC SBA School Board Candidate Workshop with the lovely Shelley on the panel of experienced people who have run for school board. That was generally one of the best parts of it was that panel. Lots of great input to individuals running for school board. Went to the Power of Democracy event with the LASD staff and teacher end of year ceremony, and then also to the LAMBCF convening that Shelley helped put on as a board member of that foundation. And that is it.
Thank you. I met with Curtis Cole, talking about CACF stuff from the board. I met with Elise Lester from Assembly Member Berman's office, just to get a heads up on legislation that's being proposed to that impacts education. Interesting stuff that he's working on. With Jessica, I went to the Children's Summit put on by Kids in Common. State of the Cities luncheon, that was a lot of fun. Junior Olympics, which was a blast. The school board candidate workshop, which Jessica organized, and the policy convening, the community foundation put on. And I just want to say, I'm really looking forward to the Hoffman Awards on Wednesday evening.
Yes.
Celebrating our team
Yes.
and all the other teams.
Yes. And it's at Metro Ed and we have students making all the food and it's
That was a good time.
Teacher of the Year Award, State of the Cities. But I spent most of today at a conference at Stanford, the title of which was The Unfinished Legacy of Brown at 70 years.
Oh.
And it was both encouraging and also very sad that 70 years later, we still have not, realized the promise of Brown.
Yeah.
So the work continues. There were people from a legal point of view, there were people, educators, there were academics there. Everybody contributed. I think we all learned something, but still we're nowhere near. So that's all.
The only thing I've discussed is that the check thing is moving forward slowly. There is a JPA member meeting they're putting together for Wednesday, that we're discussing the details. Basically, what does expanding the JPA look like? And what is the outgoing, the potential liabilities that are still pending as they try to wind down, and what, how they'll manage the reserves in this public conversation. Lead conversation. So at some point, next month, I think in January, their January schedule, they're going for the formal sort of discussion about that. Chat will be here to discuss it. So June, January, whatever, to January. So that's moving forward slowly.
Okay. I think I attended some of the same events. I've also been making the rounds of PTA meetings. As Jessica mentioned, to just alert them to the possibility of the bond process. I've got, the only two I haven't visited are the ones that didn't have a meeting in April, so I'll be visiting them in the next couple of weeks to get their May meetings. And I think that's it. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to adjourn back into closed session. I think we probably all need a little bit of a break, so I'll say 10 minutes.
Yes, that would be great. Now, can I give this?